and stopping by the Carne Asada for a few minutes. Friend of the Carne Asada, an hour closer, Eric Gagne. Eric, thanks for stopping by this morning.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I one there was a handful of people I thought of when we went a little bit after the passing of Vin Scully, because there's just so many people that he described. Right, one that comes to mind, Yaciel Puig, people like that. But another guy was Eric Gagne, and fast forward to it, like I think it was the day after. LA Times had people emailing in, and then they were kind of sharing their Vin stories. And one of the stories was from a girl who had never listened to a baseball game in her life because she was a girl and wanted to understand. So she got a notebook and started to write how fast Eric Gagne's first pitch was and every detail about those pitches and stuff like that. And why? Because of Vin Scully. Because she heard Vin Scully, start out
Mhm.
all these stories about guys like Eric Gagne. So I thought of players too, because as you know, players have an interesting relationship with broadcast guys. They travel, they spend a lot of time together, especially at the hotels and stuff like that. But I know the profound impact that Vin Scully had on Los Angeles Dodgers players of current and of former. So I wanted to hear from your perspective what the impact was of Vin Scully as a former player, as a guy that was introduced by the guy.
Well, first of all, as a fan, Vin was everything. He's been one of the guys that, we talked about Tommy Lasorda passing. He was the heart and soul of the Dodgers. And then you have the voice of the Dodgers, basically, all the message, the culture that we're trying to do internally as players, as coaches and everything else. And then you want to relay that culture to the fans. And that's what Vin was doing so well. I mean, he was able to talk to the fans, tell them a little bit of insights. Hey, there's stuff he was talking about us that we didn't remember. He would come out with stuff and like, wow, how does he find that? And he was just like, I don't want to say it. It's just you listen to him, it's just delightful. You hear him and like, wow, that's so. There's no tone like that. I don't know what it is. His voice is whatever it was, but he made you relax and you watched the game and he put you exactly in the right frame of mind for the Dodger baseball. And baseball is not super action packed, but he found a way to kind of calm you down, calm your day off, slow it down a little bit, and just tell you a great story about something's happening in front of you. And he would add some little details, personal details from each players. And I think that's what the fans are doing. I mean, they're learning from the players through Vin, and that was really for us as players. That's what we want. We want a guy that cares about us, cares about the team, because we want him to send the right message to the fans. And I think he was our voice, and it was pretty amazing what he's done for 67 years. And it's I remember just getting in the bus with him and just sitting next to him and listening to his voice. And it's like, I'm getting like a free broadcast right here. Just like he would say, every story he would talk about was just amazing. It was just, I mean, he would just bring you into, even if that story maybe wasn't that great, him telling the story made that story so much better. It's just, he was the Dodgers. I mean, and we lost a huge, huge, huge part of Dodger and huge parts of baseball too. I mean, that's a lot of other teams trying to imitate what Vin's done, and it's pretty insane. It's pretty sad.
I know you watched the tribute, the beginning of the San Diego Padres homestand. What was that like for you? What was that experience like?
It was hard. I mean, I got lucky because I turned it on at the right time, and it was just starting, and I start crying. I mean, I start remembering, and I don't cry a lot, which is kind of weird. You cry for your announcer that you played baseball, but that's how deep he was able to get in. Get so deep into people's life and really try to impact so many people that way. And I think it was really hard. I was watching. The Dodgers did an amazing job to pay tribute to him, but it was hard. I was crying. I was trying to hide. My wife was right there. She was wondering what was going on with me. She was just kind of not embarrassed, but she's like, "What's going on?" Anyway, so I walked away, and she starts to watch the tribute, and she starts to bawl. And she's, to say the least, she used to be a Dodger fan, and now she's just crying. She looked at it, and it was absolutely amazing, because just for her to see the fans cry and everything else, it was perfect. I mean, I think it was a perfect send off to a perfect person that we had with the Dodgers. And when you bleed blue, I guess that hurts a lot more. But yeah, I think he hurt. I mean, that hurt a lot of fans, a lot of baseball fans around the world. And if it's just hard to explain, it's hard to put into words how much impact he's had in the game and on the Dodgers.
Go ahead, Alysha.
And I was going to ask where you were and how you felt when you heard the news that we lost Vin. We lost Vin Scully. But you already confessed that you cried at the tribute. So I'm not going to try to get you to admit that you cried again, right? Like
No, I did cry when I heard. I was shocked. I mean, I stopped everything. I didn't believe it. You know, he's getting older, and everybody's got to, everybody's going to go through that, and it's but you don't believe that. You don't think a guy like this is ever going to leave. You don't want it. Just especially the passing of Tommy. I mean, you're losing huge parts of the history that it's irreplaceable. You can't replace these people. And I know Charlie Starner's doing an amazing job. He came in when I was there a little bit. He's amazing, but it's not Vin. And that, I don't. He'll tell you that. Vin was the best. He's one of a kind, and it's going to be a big loss. And when I heard it, I just felt like it was a piece of Dodger heart left. And it's just, but he's going to be there with us. I think he's going to be looking down, and like I was at Dodger Stadium probably last weekend, and there's a bunch of guys. I was doing the dog camp. It was a lot of fun. And you walked into Dodger Stadium, it's like a cathedral of baseball, because you hear the sound of Vin Scully. You have the ghosts there of all the old Dodgers, and I think that's what makes it so hard to hear a guy leave like that. Because he's just part of it. I mean, he's part of that. It's a huge part of Dodgers, and it's pretty sad.
It is very sad. And I feel like us sharing these stories with one another helps us, right? It helps us get through it together. And we are also not just mourning Vin, but we're celebrating him. And what you spoke of just now, it's how I felt. Like, we knew he was older. We knew he was getting, more ill late in his years, but you still don't think it's going to happen. He's a hero, immortals, right? Like, they don't die. And so it's a shock, and it makes us think about from our childhood on in Southern California. He was such a great force in baseball and in broadcasting. But because, you're from Canada, you've traveled all over, you've played everywhere. Is there anyone else like Vin in baseball or in another sport, maybe hockey? You can speak to, is there someone like Vin where the generations of families are heartbroken, right? Like, he spent 200 days a year with us, right? Yeah. So what is there's someone else that you could think of?
There is nobody like him. I think that's why he's so impactful in all sports. I think not just baseball. You talk a little. I can't think of anybody. I don't really follow sports a lot. I don't listen to it that much. But I mean, if somebody say, name me one announcer, the first one would be Vin Scully. I mean, you got Al Michaels, guys like that, but it's not. I don't think it's the. I don't know. I don't know sports that much to really start rating those. But to me, Vin was the best, and he's captured my heart as a Dodger and as a Dodger fan. And that's all you're asking. You're asking to, especially as an organization, as a sport, you're trying to get the guys that relay. That they're basically the bridge from the fans to the players. I mean, they're the ones that sending the messages from what team wants to, the image of the team. And that's what he did so well. He represented the baseball to the highest level, and he's represented the Dodgers so well. And I think that's what you're looking for. That's what, as a player, you want to be a role model and everything else. You want to represent your team well, but he had such a huge responsibility of really talking to the fans from a player standpoint, from a team standpoint, and from a sports standpoint. And he's accomplished that amazingly. I mean, the way he carried himself. I mean, not just as an announcer. You talk to him on the bus. He was so nice all the time. I mean, he was just a nice, genuine person. That's all. Just to be that big. Because he was bigger than the Dodgers for a while. I mean, back then we think. I mean, even now, I think. When I played, it was Vin Scully first before us. We weren't winning and everything else, but he was a treasure. I mean, we wanted to win on the field, but when we weren't winning, I think Vin was bigger than the Dodgers almost. And it tells you a lot where, that's pretty amazing. He didn't change at all. He was carrying himself as a professional all the time. Like the players loved him. And there are a lot of players they're not gonna like announcers all the time, because if they say the truth and stuff like that, there's always a little bit, but he was always so good at balancing that. I'd understand the game is hard, it's not that easy, and make that understand from the player to the fans that, hey, these guys are trying hard. It was always a positive announcer. And I think that takes a lot of work when you watch that many games and that many pitches, not to be so critical. And he was a little critical, but he was a positive critic all the time. And I think it's just, that's what you want as a player. You don't want to be just told you're the best, but if you're a baseball player, I'm trying to do my best, and he's representing the team, he's representing the game, and he was doing that amazingly.
Yes, you said it. You said it from the very beginning, that voice. There will never
Yeah.
be another Vin. And I can see Juan got really excited. One of your answers. Go on, Juan.
Well, no, look, we're joining us on the carne asada is one of our favorite immigrants, an honorary paisano, because he loves the Latin people. Eric, I wanted to ask you this. For me, I feel all Dodger fans are very protective of Vin Scully. And like a lot of us have said, I mean, we haven't met the guy, but if anybody's going to talk trash on Vin Scully, we automatically get up to it. I think about in the 70s, there was a survey, I guess, of who best represented the Dodgers, and you had choices, and Vin Scully wasn't even on the ballot, and he won because people wrote in the name Vin Scully. I hear people who are not Dodger fans from across the country. They hear him and they go, "God, he talks so much. How do you guys put up?" And of course, you get up. What are you talking about, man?
Right.
That guy is the greatest. You can't say anything bad. And you mentioned it. I smiled because you said that he wasn't very critical of people. And to me, if you didn't know he was the Dodgers broadcaster, you would have just thought he was a guy off the street calling the game what it is. And I don't see that in today's broadcasting. Mm-hmm. I don't see guys giving credit to the other team and being like, "Hey, that guy's a great player. Oh, what a play." I heard that all the time with Vin Scully. When someone on the other team, everyone knew he loved Willie Mays, but he would always give credit to an opposing player coming in and say how great he was. So I want to know, I mean, being that you were coming from Canada, when you showed up to the Dodgers, this guy was already doing it for some 40 odd years. How aware were you of Vin Scully before you got to the Dodgers?
I was not aware a lot, but remember, I'm from Montreal, Jackie Robinson. There's always been a lot of history with Dodgers in Montreal. There's a lot of the baseball root fan, like a lot of the main fan are Dodger fan because they're Jackie Robinson fan. And Montreal Royals used to be AAA. So there's always been some kind of connection there. And I think Vin, to me, I've always been really interested in all the movies they made us watch was about the Dodger culture, the Dodger history, the Drysdale, the Koufax, all the best of the best. Even from the Dodgers back then, it was, they're all that. So I learned about that. I learned about Vin. And what you're telling me, like when you're saying, the way he was so nice and the way you organized, because I think his perspective was really to look at the game first, and then the team, and then the player, and then the fans. And I think he did that so well. He understood, hey, it's not about me. It wasn't about Vin ever. It wasn't about anything. Oh, I'm trying to be a homer. He was just trying to explain the game like he saw as a fan, and out of fan, he's like, okay, what do they want to hear? And what would the player want me to say? And I think that was such a good medium that he played. And I think no one can do that way anymore. Because it's just different. The game is different. The game, he's coming from Brooklyn all the way down. It's totally different. And it's pretty amazing that, there's a natural treasure. I mean, it's just, you can't not replicate Vin Scully. You cannot replace it. You can only learn from what he's done, take bits and pieces, say, he's done it that way. I'm going to try to model myself that way. But it's a huge hole. It's a huge goal. But I did know about him a little bit. I've learned just from, I didn't listen to anything in English because I was French Canadian. I wasn't really lucky enough that I could listen to Vin, but I would have been for sure. But I knew about the history coming in as a Dodger and a little bit from Montreal. So you kind of know about the whole Dodger history.
So, I mean, I'm going to put this all on you. You're going to have to answer for everybody, Eric. How do we keep his legacy alive? There's young kids now that are, our Dodger fans who aren't going to know anything about Vin Scully. Yeah, we can show the Kirk Gibson, clip as much as we can. But these are kids that didn't grow up with all the other. I mean, he was calling the games of the week for NBC. He was calling World Series every Saturday when you were watching the game of the week. For me, it was Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola. So how do you keep a legacy like that alive?
I think it's a responsibility for all the broadcasters now, and I think same for the players. The respect we show the broadcaster is what the respect we showed Vin, and the way Vin showed us. I think that's kind of how you keep his spirit alive, almost. basically what he's done just to represent him. It might not be, we talk about him all the time, but we just trying to do stuff like, be like Mike, be like Vin, be like that, or, just kind of stuff like that. And I think everything he's done, I really don't I don't even have one negative story I could even think of. And never, there's nothing really. I mean, he's such a professional, such a great representative of the game. I mean, I think you've just the way to not forget. No one's going to forget about him. It's impossible. I can't. And you just play the game once in a while. Maybe you watch the games on the Jumbotron at Dodger Stadium, Duke's couple of nights, the old school games, and stuff like that. Maybe you can, I'm sure now with the technology, you could have Vin's voice do a voiceover for some plays or some innings or whatever.
Right.
They're talking about stuff like that. So I mean, I don't know, but I think players have a responsibility, understanding the history. Players have a responsibility. Teams have a responsibility to make sure that we don't forget about that, and the young kids don't forget. That's what culture is. That's how you do as a team, and the Yankees do that way. They want to make sure they remember their greats. Well, the greats of the Dodgers, I think Vin is on top of the list. I mean, he didn't never throw a baseball or hit a baseball, and he's on top of the list. So that just tells you everything. I mean, you can say Sandy and all that, but I don't think the impact that any player has ever had on any franchise is as bigger than Vin, and I think that needs to be recognized.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I've talked about it with these guys. Maybe I should just stop trying to understand why I had the reaction that I had. You admitted about what happened when you heard the news. Alysha and I, we were not in the same movie theater, but we were in a movie theater when we got the news, and we came out, and I've told this story. And I got the news, I sat there for a few minutes, and then I started crying, and I kept looking at my girl going, I don't know why I'm crying. Like, I don't know why. I mean, what's happening to me? And when a friend of mine asked me, he's like, for someone who is not a Dodger fan, like, all these women are trying to understand why their men were crying on Tuesday night, right? And if you're not a Dodger fan, if you're not a baseball fan, I think it is really hard to understand. Why is it that you have this reaction? This is a guy who was the constant person in your life. Mm-hmm. If you watch the Dodgers, he was the one constant. Players come and go. Managers come and go. Ownership come and win. Vin Scully was the one constant thing. And now, death being finite, it's gone.
Yep.
So
yep. It's a monument. You're losing a monument. You're losing such a pillar to your organization, and the sport. I mean, it's just, the Dodgers. It's going to be very, very hard for the Dodgers. I mean, you're losing something that's you can't replace. And now, how to do it's going to be very interesting to see, because it's hard. I mean, you can't do that. You can't replicate. You can't say all of a sudden we're going to get a guy who's just like Vin. You can't. And I think it's like you said, it's such a game changer, such an impact person, and it's going to be hard. I mean, but. That's life. It's life. You got, like you said, the constant, baseball, the game of baseball is a game of constant, or what do you call that? Consistency. And then Vin was that consistency with the Dodgers. I mean, through ups and downs, through all the, a lot of years of not winning, a lot of years that we should have won, through no World Series to new World Series now. Like he's been through all of it, man. He could tell you there. I mean, he's the best. You've seen it all. I mean, you're talking about the best of the best. You've seen it all. You talk about the worst of the worst. You've seen it all. So, I mean, you're losing a huge piece of history that it's going to be hard, because the way you would narrate that, the way you would talk about the game, no one could do that, because he had a perspective that no one's ever had.
I mean, it is, I have to say, it has been nice to see how you guys, the whole Dodgers organization, the whole alumni have really come together, because when you think about it, it's been a tough year. I mean, you lose Vin, you lose Mike Brito, you lose Don Sutton. I have to say, it's been very reassuring to see how you play for the Dodgers. Once a Dodger, always a Dodger, or as they used to say back in the Brooklyn days, once a bum, always a Dodger. I mean, it's been very inspiring to see how you guys have all come together to help one another.
Well, we're a big family. I mean, the Dodger family, and I don't think you can take that away. And we all know, we all been taught the same way how how was it? What is it like to be a Dodger? And Vin was part of that, and Tommy was part of that. Dunn was part of that. Drysdale, Koufax. These are the people we wanted to be like, and I think that's you can't take that away. And the Dodgers have, I think trusted Dodgers. They've built a culture built on history and built on new everything. But I think they understand the value of older players. They understand the value of culture. They understand the value of history. And they're not going to get away from this. I think that it's going to be a huge mistake if they would. Then they're too smart for that, and I think they understand that. And that's why I think it's going to be amazing to see how they. I don't want to say transition, but it's going to be a transition from the older to the almost the newer generation of ex-old Dodgers.
Yeah. No, and to Eric Gagne's humble point, some of the scrubs that he played with were Kevin Brown himself, of course, Paul LaDuca, Adrian Beltre, Sean Green, Eric Karros, Hideo Nomo. And these are all guys that he just said that were above the team as far as Vin goes. Vin was above all of that. But that shows you the culture that the Dodgers have, the tradition that the Dodgers have, because they recognize and understand that, right? Because, I mean, in 2002, that team was lights out. So, for you to say that Vin was bigger than you guys, that again, that just shows, the cultural impact of not only Vin, but of that clubhouse. I know you don't do a lot of these, and we really appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk about Vin, the impact Vin had on you from the player perspective. And again, because you don't do a lot of these. So it really means a lot to us that you stopped by for a few minutes, Eric.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Alysha,
it.
did you have something? I thought you raised your hand like a good schoolgirl.
I did.
Oh, you did. I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses on, so I cannot see.
No, don't be sorry. We're keeping you. Thank you, Mr. Gagne.
That's all good.
Spending
It's all
time
good.
with us.
Eric,
like
please
Vin.
call me Eric.
I want to be very polite, right? Like that's how we honor Vin, Mr. Scully, Mr. Gagne. But okay, Eric, thank you for hanging out with us. I just have one question because you are a player, a former player. You made me think of this while you were speaking. Now, the impact of losing Vin, there are all these hashtags. I saw my first T-shirt that said "Win for Vin 2022." Do players take on those challenges, or I'm not sure what to call that? Maybe you can help me. Where something so impactful happens during a season, where the team does rally around that cause, or that whether it's a loss or a tragedy. Like even outside of baseball, do players really take that inward?
Yeah.
Do they care?
100%, especially a guy like Vin had such a big impact. I think it's going to bring the guys together. And, if you're tired, it's a long year. You don't focus on always the same thing. Sometimes your brain kind of goes away. But I think understanding the impact and the respect we have to show as Dodgers and as players and as fan of the game, we have to really represent and show respect to Vin by playing the game the right way. And I think that's what the Dodgers are going to do. And I think they're, Dave Roberts leading that. You got all the best guys in the industry are pretty much with the Dodgers. So I would not worry about that. The only thing if I was another team, I would worry a lot because the Dodgers, first of all, they're really, really, really good. I think they have a lot of the depth, and I think that's going to bring them even more together because they're going to want to win for Vin, and it's going to be it's already a special year, but I think they're going to come together and just kind of show respect to Vin by playing the hardest they can and playing the game respectfully.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
No problem.
That's comforting. Thank you.
Not comforting to Juan, because if you listen to our last episode, Juan strayed away from the Lord's light when it came to.
Hey, look, I follow the teachings of Vin Scully. When you have a lineup that has Juan Soto in it, Manny Machado, I'm not going to be like you guys and dismiss those guys just because I'm a Dodger fan.
I didn't dismiss
they
them.
Suck.
I didn't dismiss them.
I'm just like, look, those guys are good. And look, it was a little shaky for Gonsolin last night. He got out of it. What I didn't take into account is that Minaya has struggled against the Dodgers all season. So that's my bad. I should have done my research there. But ask Eric. Eric, do you want to face a lineup that has Juan Soto in it, Manny Machado, and then when Tatis comes in there, Josh Bell is a good hitter, man. I mean, where's the soft spot in that first five?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's the whole West is amazing. I mean the whole West plays really good baseball, very fundamentally sound baseball. And I think now you add the Padres to this. They're not young anymore. They're a little bit older. They got all the weapons they're looking for. The pitching is getting there. I think I haven't really looked at the relievers now. They got Ader in there. I mean they're going to be a very, very scary team to face. But again, you know, it's just on paper. If you go out there, you got to win. You know, there's a it factor that the Dodgers have. They know they're that good. And there's another thing with San Diego right now. They have to prove they're spending a lot of money. They have a lot of really good pieces together, so they got to win. So I think it's going to be amazing to watch. I mean, it's good baseball. It's fun to watch. I mean, you're watching the best of the best play against each other right now. I mean, it's basically an all-star game you're watching.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty insane.
I said this when Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi were in their primes, when they played each other and everyone was just arguing about who was better. Solid soccer reference, by the way, on a baseball podcast. But you didn't appreciate what the two guys were, right? You didn't appreciate how good they were. And now they're, you know, in their twilight and people were like, what? Huh? And because it happens just like that, right? So for me, I'm going to enjoy it because if the Padres are trying to get over that Dodger hump, hey, that just means better baseball as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. That's what you want. You want a team to try to win. And I think San Diego has proven that they're willing to win. I know they've been, you know, back in the days, it wasn't you know, it was just the Dodgers. That's it. Now you got the Giants are really, really strong. You got, you know, Colorado's going to make a push at some point. They're going to come in and say, hey, we got to do something. And San Diego is making their big push. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch teams that try to win. That's what you want. You as a fan, you want your team to try to win every single day, every single game, every single year. And, you know, it shows that then you're going to have the best fans, I think. And, you know, it's got to be both ways. You can't have it one way or another as own team. You can't say, you know what, we got to put your chips in. And I think the Giants the Padres have done that. And it's going to be interesting to watch.
100%.
Right? See, to bring it full circle, Vin Scully would have shown his appreciation to the team. But you know where his allegiance was. You knew he was a Dodger fan, but he would appreciate. So to your point, I agree with you, Alonso. Instead of us complaining about this, we should just enjoy good baseball.
Well done on the Vin Scully reference there, Juan, to bring you out of that hole. I appreciate that.
I do what I can.
Eric, again, can't thank you enough for joining us because, like I mentioned a minute ago before, I couldn't see Alysha needing to ask a question. You don't do a lot of these, and it really means the world to us that you joined us for a few minutes. Like Juan said, you're our favorite French-Canadian immigrant. 2A in my case because it's Steve Green, 1A, 1B, Eric Gagne.
There you go.
Anybody that I can talk Rougeau brothers with is okay in my book.
But
I like it.
Hopefully we can have you back on at some point to maybe discuss the postseason and some bullpen action because we talked about that the other day, but it won't really matter until the postseason. No offense to the bullpen, but that's kind of the next hump. So if you have some time, we'd love to chat with you then.
Hey, let me know. Just send me a text and I'll be on.
Got you. Well, again, that's Eric Gagne stopping by the
Thank you, guys.
Follow him. If you're not following him, get that follower count up at Eric Gagne.
Get me up to 45.
Go follow him. Find him on the Twitter.
Small goals.
Yes. Hey, I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Quality. I'm all about quality over quantity.
There you
go. Again, thank you, Eric. We appreciate you.
Thank you,
All right,
Eric.
bye, guys. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.